Well, here we are back at Look Away, and I hope you're ready for this. This scenario is 4 turns. It's over after 3. And the Union has only pushed just past Dalton. But you still got one more game turn. No, I don't. Well, I mean, I could play out the game turn, but unfortunately, as we look over here, the Union has no more points to use. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this statement right off the bat. Of all the games that I've played since the 80s, ran them with a long break in there, these command rules using operational efforts points and war effort points, I think are one of the most deep and detailed systems. And granted, I wasn't alive in the 1860s. I was born a couple years after that. I think it reflects very well to this style of gameplay. This game, more than any game I've played, makes, and I have to say the next one on the line would be the Civil War Brigade series by MMP, which I just started playing those here in the last couple months. Makes you make decisions about who's going to do what, or if you're even going to do it at all. And since this was my first play of this game and this system, I did not do that right. But you can bet when I set up again, either this one or one of the other two, that I'm going to have to think a little harder, and the process might be a little slower trying to obtain victory. So the victory conditions were, it's an automatic decisive victory if the Union owns Chattanooga and, get that the way down here, and Atlanta. Automatic win. All right. It's also a victory. Where was it? I was just reading it. I done lost it now. Okay, so you also get victory points for killing leaders, which Confederates did kill 2, and for step losses. So if you don't win the game by the victory conditions, here's right here, decisive victory. Okay, so let's read it. The Union player may achieve a decisive victory by holding Atlanta and Chattanooga at the end of any scenario. The Confederate player wins a decisive victory if he holds Atlanta at the end of any scenario, including the campaign game, and has captured or destroyed commands containing at least 2 of the Union player's headquarters units. All right. Outside of that, if neither team achieves a decisive victory, the condition is then determined by the victory points. All right. So those 2 leader deaths, just unlucky die rolls, okay, gave the Confederates 7 victory points. The Union ended with 4. So it is a Confederate victory. Now I'm looking forward to playing again. Maybe I'll try one of the other 2. Or maybe I'll set the campaign up. I don't know. I'll think about that one. But I want to play this again because I like this. This game will, like I say, this game is going to make you think, all right, real hard about how you use these points. Because at the end of an impulse, every leader you have active costs you on the war efforts chart there. So the Union started with 100, but they went hell's bells in the first 2 game turns trying to cause damage to the Confederates and try to push towards Resaca, which Resaca's right here where that supply wagon is, okay? The only thing I think lacking, I think the victory conditions could be a little stronger toward or a little more faced towards the scenario, what the objective of the scenario is, or like even the title of it, okay? So, agreed, for the campaign game, granted, you know, Sherman is pushing to Atlanta. We get that. But I think there should be some more specific objectives for the South to Resaca scenario. So if that's where they're going, maybe there should be something for capturing that, maybe on a certain game turn, or you know, maybe you get so many if you take it by game turn 3, and then a few less if you take it on game turn 4. I mean, I think that could be. Truthfully, I think that's the only thing that's lacking. As far as rules goes, almost all rule books have something that's not right, and there's somebody to correct them. Well, this rule book here, now that I've read it and perused through it as I'm playing the game, this rule book is laid out fine. It's actually laid out in a good method. It's just you're trying to understand because it's so detailed. Well, I'll tell you, when you read it once or twice and you look at it on the board, there's only 2 or 3 rules that I really had to just go over and over and over again until I got it right. And of course, I put in an email to Against the Odds Game, which they answered me about bidding 0. If you bid 0, I played it right. You're not doing nothing for the whole turn. So, and I can understand where that would happen because the Union probably should have slowed down. Okay. But I mean, it seems to me that the only way they're going to win in the first turn, because they're obviously not going to take Atlanta in the first scenario, is they got to cause damage. So you kind of have to get after them. But boy, it costs a lot of those war effort points. Burn them up to get mass forces in there. And then if you fail in an attack, you've burnt those points out anyhow because you tried to attack. So didn't really have any supplies issues. You see that the supply wagon there, he just moved into Dalton. So next he'll flip over into a depot before long. The engineers are coming down the railroad. I think I need to do a little more reading on that particular rule because the Union has passed all these. Do these engineers still have to convert those rail lines? I got to do some checking on that one too. But you see those once they got past those 2 towns right there, those depots were able to move up. Okay, so now from those depots, it can be any length back to Atlanta. So, I mean, you could eventually, as the Union kept driving, they could have all this rail line taken all the way down here to, let's say, Calhoun, or all the way down here to Adamsville or Edgersville. What is that? Adairsville, or whatever. Forget it, we'll go down here. To Kingston. And you have your depot there, then it's just an unlimited line from that depot all the way back to the supply source in Chattanooga or off the map. Okay? And it would be the same for the Confederates. So the Confederates, they have a depot underneath that supply wagon there. And they were fixing to start moving those wagons to the south because they were probably going to get pushed back. All right, so what happened was on turn 3, we got light rain, which made slowed movement down just a tiny bit. But to top it off, 2 consecutive impulses. These 2 forces right here, they got movements of 2. And then on the last turn, Sherman got a movement of 1. And in light rain, that half movement point on railroads and roads is now 1. So they weren't even, Johnson, he rolled low too, but he was able to move in behind that minor river right there. So he was going to be tough to fight anyhow. But like I say, the Union run out of war effort points. So, all right, look, guys, this was a fast end to this game. You can get your hands on these games, and I'm telling you, they're worth it to me. You can get your hands on these games pretty inexpensive still. I've seen a bunch of the Army of the Heartlands out there on eBay, and I think Noble Knights still has them, probably some other place still have them. And I think you could still get this one from Against the Odds, I want to say. But you want a system that'll test you mentally? Now, I haven't been tested mentally yet because I don't have the mental powers to be tested. But I do know that you've got to think this game. I can't imagine 2 people going at it in this game. The defender, the guy playing on the defense, would probably just be smirking the whole time if he's not having to waste points attacking and stuff like that. But that player that's attacking the Union in this one, boy, that is going to be a mental grind. But let me tell you something. It's worth every penny. I don't think I paid too much for this game. I don't think I paid too much for any of them in the series. But I know they've been passed up because the rules look a little squirrely. But let me tell you, those rules are not as squirrely as some you might think. All right, they take a little rereading in certain sections and stuff. But let me tell you, they're laid out in sequence on how the phases go. Except for towards the end, you have the scatter rules about gun laws and cavalry and stuff like that. But it's like half a page. Everything else is in sequence. And then all your scenarios are from page 29 on. And between 20 and 29, you have your general stuff like how to set a game up, the introduction to scenarios, the victory points, how they work, scenario overview, special rules, all right? This game to me is worth every penny and even a few dollars more. You want a game that's going to test you on that's just a small scale in one map game, not a ton of units on the map. A lot of units though that show up over here on these cards that you've got to account for. I never got anything broken. Morale never got crushed. Never had any ammo points, any troubles. Just they got a little low. I was only playing 4 turns. I only got through 3. Never had any admin problems. I do want to say I had one, and I want to say it was with Johnson where he used up most of his admin points, and there was something I wanted to do and I couldn't do it. It turned out it was no effect. I was never able to get any of the cavalry remounted, although these guys were still trying. I brought reinforcements on. Polk and his entire corps came on. That's where they come in at. And you see I flipped them over to inactive because I know darn well when there was only 1.5 turns left, the Union wasn't getting down there. And what I was going to do with Polk or that cavalry was move them into Kingston, or I've got the Confederate engineer up here in, okay, let me see. Yeah, Calhoun, I was right. Up here in, I think it's Calhoun or Calhoun, whatever. And I was going to build entrenchments in there for Johnston to fall back into, or Polk to move into. And then I was going to do the same down here, because let me tell you something, that rail line and that road running, splitting the north and south, to me, those are the objectives for the Union. And those are the defensive objectives for the Confederacy. All right. Wrote me a couple notes on the board here. Supply wagons, when it comes to tracing supply links, supply wagon is 8. And you could, okay, so if you've got a depot, just keep this in mind if you play it. See, there's a depot there. Let's say there was they didn't own this piece of railroad here. Those engineers are working on it. So a supply wagon can link between 2 depots. A supply wagon can link between 2 depots. So if you had a depot here and a depot down here that was Union, and they needed a link to get to each other, because it's 14 for depots, 14 movement points, and say that distance was too big between the 2 depots, you got a supply wagon, you put them in between it, and that's your link. But he can only link between 2 depots, so you cannot have a chain of supply wagons between 2 depots. There can only be one that's linking them. You got to keep that in mind. And let's see. Depots to supply source is unlimited on your railroads. All right, so from wherever your depot is, all right, all the way back to, as long as you own the railroads, as long as they've modified the roads like those engineers are doing, from the depot all the way back. So, I mean, if the Union were to get all this rail line repaired or converted all the way down here to Adairsville, and they got a depot in there, then that would be their final link in the supply, going to the supply source, because from there they could go all the way back unlimited, unless a Confederate raid gets in there and breaks up the rail line. Okay. Simple truth. This is a good game. This is a good system. This will work your brain out. If you're one of those people that likes to solve hard puzzles, play this game. I really don't believe it's that hard to learn. I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, and I learned how to play this. Yeah, I probably got a few bugs I need to work out. But this is worth the play. It's not, you don't have to spread it out and play it over a long period of time. You probably could, but you have to do some thinking, and you have to assign those points. I think it's kind of like the supply ones in one of the MMP series for, like, was it OCS or something like that? I know the East Front series for GMT where you need to have attack supply points. Well, this game has that same sort of thing. So you may not be able to do something if you don't have those points. So you've really got, in this game here, it's the war effort points and the operational efforts and your administrative points for each of your leaders. So there may be a case where you don't have a whole lot of points. You're like, man, I can't use all of those leaders, or I gotta turn somebody inactive. Well, maybe you got 3 divisions in a corps, and you can only really afford to use one of those divisions. Well, you detach him, then he uses that leader uses his own admin points, and you put the other 2 divisions inactive so that you don't lose war effort points at the end of the impulse. All these things have to be thought through, and I know now when I play the second version of whatever this I'm going to play, I'll have to keep that in the back of my head. All right, once again, this is a great game. This would be of the ones I've played recently, this goes into my top 10. The system does. All right. Initially, looks like it's tedious to learn, but honestly, it's not. I mean, if you've played any difficult games, this one's no different. It just has more details to it for such a what looks like a small level game. All right, we'll try to get this thing posted up. Give me some comments on what you all think about this. I know it wasn't a whole lot to see, but what I was able to cover, give me some comments on that. Tell me what you think about it. And if you're going to get it out and play it, let me know. Let me know if you're struggling with something. Maybe I can help. If you get through it and you enjoyed the play or you see what I'm seeing, let me know. If you think it stinks, let me know that too. All right. All right, let's get this posted. We'll talk to you all later.